Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we'll have the latest from the live radar, from the latest weather warnings, as we have got numerous wind warnings issued over the next 48 hours, as we are going to see some very strong winds coming in from the west as we do head into a pretty stormy period. Now this system hasn't been named yet, and the warnings haven't really been adjusted much, as the models overnight have pretty much been consistent with their forecasting. There still could be some changes as we head into Sunday, and we'll update you with those tomorrow. Beyond that, we are looking at potentially another couple of storm systems moving through in the middle of the week. There is a lot of uncertainty on their track though, as it all depends on how much higher pressure builds to our south, where the jet stream does set up, as some runs are keeping the storm system just to our north, really only impacting Scotland. Other runs a bit further southwards with the stronger winds into England or Wales, so still a lot of uncertainty there, but regardless looking pretty stormy even into next week. And then we'll see from the longer range charts, there is a little bit of uncertainty starting to build, a little bit of disagreement between the operational runs, with some models continuing to push in lower pressure, more storm systems, keeping it very unsettled into the second half of the month. Other runs have that higher pressure nudging in from the south, still keeping a westerly flow. We're going to see more Atlantic ridges, more European high pressure influence, and that could mean that at times we see it a little bit drier and maybe a little bit warmer as well. So they're not drastically different, but one would continue these sort of washout days, lots of heavy rain and stronger winds. The other scenario would still have that at times, but it would have some pleasant interludes as well. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, much do like and subscribe. Now, if you start on the live radar, you see another day of sunshine and showers. The showers still very heavy across Northern Ireland, Northern England and Scotland. A lot of these quite heavy and thundery. Further southwards, the showers are starting to fade away now, but still a few of these hefty showers do remain. And there were some really intense ones earlier with some hail, lightning in some of these. Again, pretty typical. We've got warm, humid air coming up from the south. And we've got this stronger westerly wind with the low pressure systems out to our west. Now, if you do put on the temperatures this afternoon, we're calling this around 5:30. Not particularly warm today. In the sun, doesn't feel too bad. Maybe nudging up towards the high teens, but most have seen mostly cloudy and showery conditions. So, a few brief spells where it's pleasant, but a lot of the time that wind is blowing, the rain's coming down, and the cloud is in. It is feeling cold out there, really autumnal, more around the mid or even low teens. Now, if you go over to the weather warnings, we've got this wind warning issued throughout Sunday into Monday from 8 p.m. until 6 p.m. on Monday there. Not seeing any updates today. If we scroll to the bottom, you can see this was last updated on Friday morning. So we looked at this in yesterday's video. So we won't look at this in too much detail, as there's been no changes to it. But just again, to make people aware of this who weren't watching the video yesterday. Look at widely 40 to 50 mile per hour winds across this area, up to 50 to 60 at the strongest points, and maybe a few areas over the higher ground. Coastal areas maybe seeing 70. It's kind of on the threshold. It's kind of a 50-50 whether we see any escalation to this, whether they see this system named. At the moment, though, it's not named. So I suspect, unless we saw some drastic shifts overnight, the Met Office will probably keep it where it is. Maybe we'll see the wind warnings updated to reflect timing differences and intensity differences. That could be a possibility with this broken up. But at the moment, unless, as I said, we see some drastic changes, don't expect this warning or this system to change too much from what data we have got now. We are watching, though, around the middle of the week, Wednesday, Thursday time, for another pretty intense low to move in. And that is looking even more intense than this low. So that definitely could have further warnings, maybe amber and maybe named. Now, if you have a look at the latest UKV, you can see the rain is continuing to move in throughout today. Lots of heavy showers breaking out, and they'll slowly fade away this evening, really, to not much into the early hours of Sunday. But then we start to see that storm system moving through into Sunday. Initially, a big band of heavy rain moving in. Again, it's pretty slow moving. It is going to dump a good kind of 3 to 6 hours of heavy rain in most areas. And we're looking at a really intense band across central England there during Sunday afternoon. That will eventually clear into the evening, leaving a few heavy showers behind, but generally overnight into Monday, it does turn a little bit drier, still with the heavy showers. But this is where the winds really start to pick up on the southern flank of this storm system, and it's through early hours of Monday through towards the early afternoon, where the winds will be strongest and those showers could pep up, especially across Northern Ireland and Northern England. That system will eventually clear overnight into Tuesday, and then Tuesday we're in the calm between the storm systems. It's actually a pretty dry day, some high level cloud moving in, but it doesn't look too bad. So if you have got some plans over the next few days and you're pretty flexible, then Tuesday looks like a pretty good day given this latest forecast. Now beyond that, we see the next storm system moving in. Again, really heavy rain, but look at its track. It's slightly further northwards, and this is where we've got the uncertainties creeping in. How far northwards will this low track as we start to see some higher pressure trying to nudge up from the south? Now it gives heavy rain for many northern areas here and a little bit in the far south, but it's again those really strong winds on the southern flank during Wednesday into Thursday for much of Northern Ireland, Northern England and Scotland. Now, if you look at the mean sea level pressure, see that low approaching through Sunday into Monday. The central pressure getting down to about 984 millibars or so. And the strongest winds are on that southern flank there. You can see them coming in off the Atlantic. As I said, calm between the storms on Tuesday, this small ridge of higher pressure. And then we see the next storm system into Wednesday. The low, though, a bit further northwards, a couple hundred miles further northwards, down towards 980 millibars in the centre of that low. And you see the strongest winds, instead of being across England, Wales, and the Republic of Ireland, would be across Northern Ireland, Northern England, and most of Scotland. And we can see those wind gusts now. You can see peaking through Sunday evening into Monday, around the 40 to 50 widely, 50 to 60 in the most prone spots, and potentially up to 70 over the higher ground and coastal areas, especially around the Irish Sea. But it looks really lively there around lunchtime to the early afternoon of Monday there. Lots of very strong winds, so could be some disruption. Again, not the most intense system, but the wind field is huge. It's going to affect a big area, and you can see why we have the yellow warnings in force. Now that system clears for Tuesday, and it doesn't look too bad. Then the next system arrives, initially some stronger winds during Wednesday, but it's overnight Wednesday into Thursday where we see some very strong winds there for Northern Ireland, Northern England and Scotland, widely 60 to 70, up towards 80 or even higher. If that verifies, definitely looking at yellow warnings, potentially even amber warnings, and definitely a higher risk of this system being named. But as I said, it is all down to how much of the higher pressure to the southeast, this high just down to our south, how much of that pushes in. Because if that does push in a little bit more, then this low will be a bit further out into the North Atlantic, and the wind will be more out to sea. So a lot of uncertainty with that system, but all eyes again looking at that. If you look at the temperatures this afternoon, as I said, most areas struggling around the mid-teens or even low teens, upper teens in the far east, where we see more of the sunshine. Into Sunday, it's a similar story. We start to see that warm sector moving in, so you can see there is a sort of a wedge of high teens there, but most under the rain, mid to low teens. That wedge of warm air will move in, and it'll give decent conditions, or relatively warm and humid conditions at times, but it's not going to be particularly pleasant. Monday, again, 18 or 19 with those stronger winds, feeling a little bit cooler in the north and the west. And then into Tuesday, more pleasant day, and that's going to be, I think, the best day of the next upcoming working week, as temperatures are going to reach the high teens in some spots, and it is going to be mostly dry. Into Wednesday, you see, it's actually relatively mild, up towards even 20 degrees. But again, this is not completely telling the full picture. This is a warm sector that is very temporary. It's 3 to 6 hours at most of these slightly warmer conditions, and that will get flooded away. And as we head into Thursday, turning much cooler. You can see that warm sector on the upper air temperatures here. Very small, but at the same time, poignant. Warm sector pushing through there before it does get cleared away. So could give some temporary humid and warm conditions at some point there on Wednesday, but it is very much blink and you'll miss it. Now, if you look at the longer range charts, if we look at the latest GFS, which is just coming out as I'm recording this, you can see the low moving through there through Sunday night into Monday, that really lively system. And then the next storm system arriving there Wednesday into Thursday. You see its track here straight through Scotland. It's actually similar to the latest UKV. And then again, we see some brief high pressure, and then another low arrives by the end of the week. but a little bit of a change, perhaps longer term, as we see more influence of higher pressure. Now, it's not a dominant high, it's not sat right over the top of us, but it's more involved, allowing some maybe drier conditions at times before eventually we actually see a proper mid-Atlantic ridge, maybe even easterly winds starting to take off at the end of September. Again, it is so early on in the autumn, it wouldn't produce anything cold at all, but it'd be a little bit chillier. The wind would be coming in off the North Sea, dragging some cloud in. And again, if we do zoom in, be able to see the 2 meter temperatures are not incredible at all. But the big thing is that, especially further northwards, it'll be a little bit drier. We'll have to keep an eye on that little cut-off low that develops to our south elsewhere. So it wouldn't be abysmal, but it wouldn't be particularly great either. So a bit of a pattern change there, admittedly, from the end of this GFS run, with a blocking high to our north and this cut-off low. It would be a very interesting pattern in the middle of winter. But yeah, huge contrast to what we've seen from the runs over the past week or two, which have definitely been on that westerly amplified jet stream pattern. Now, this is an amplified jet stream, but it is so amplified this high kind of gets trapped. So yeah, a very interesting run today from the GFS. We'll have to see if it does verify, but it does give a glimmer of hope for something maybe drier towards the end of the month. Now, if you compare to the latest GM, low pressure moving through over the next day or so, and then that next low really pushing through there Wednesday into Thursday. A brief ridge of high pressure around Friday, Saturday, and then another low does push in. Another ridge of higher pressure, again that high pushing in, but then another really strong low, and this high will struggle to hold off that low pressure system there around day 10, and again it's all because of the amplified jet stream, seeing kind of a flip-flopping pattern between high and dry, and then the low pressure and windy conditions returning. Now, to finish by looking at the latest ECMWF, this is the midnight run. It's very similar over the next few days to the other runs, lots of low pressure piling in off the Atlantic, but a bit of a change around the latter point of next week. We see these lows trying to push back in, but they get deflected northwards. This low heads up towards Iceland and clears to our north as high pressure starts to be in more control. Again, it doesn't hold out forever as we start to see some ex-tropical systems and some generally more Atlantic power pushing through, and by the end of the run some more lively lows do approach. But it does look like we could see a fair share of dry, maybe even warm conditions. The upper air temperatures get towards double digits, which is above average, well above average, by the end of the month. So ECMWF even throwing a proper glimmer of hope there longer term of maybe something dry and warm. So we are seeing perhaps some changes appearing in the longer terms of these operational runs today, but I must stress these changes are 7 days and beyond, so it's not imminent, and it means the likelihood that whatever is evolving in these runs of coming exactly true is pretty low. We are likely to see some modifications, maybe not even playing out like this at all, but the fact that there are some differences starting to appear, it's not just a flat westerly or even an amplified jet stream anymore, it's more potentially proper pattern changes, then that does show that there is definitely scope in the next couple of days for some big changes to potentially appear there into the final week of the month. Now, after you finish by looking at the latest ensembles, these latest GFS, you see lots of up and down in temperatures over the next couple of weeks. You see when warm sectors moving through, like in the next couple of days, more warm sectors during the middle to the end of working week. Again, could be a little bit more dominant if we do see that ridge pushing in. But again, that is a big caveat because there is still quite a lot of precipitation. Generally, precipitation still looks pretty high, lots of showers, especially longer term, but there is scope for some drier periods to kind of iron themselves out here. Sea level pressure, very up and down over the next week. Again, that's where we are highly likely to see oscillating low pressure systems, big low pressure systems, and brief ridges, and then more uncertainty longer term as it's a little bit more stationary, a little bit more of a smoother line there, perhaps in implicating higher pressure is going to stick around a little bit more often than not. So that would be an interesting pattern as we do head into the final week of September. And if we finish by looking at the latest ECMWF, again, we are looking at up and down conditions. It looks like it's cut off the first couple of days, unfortunately. But lots of up and down conditions generally as we head into the latter part of next week. And then again, a little bit more stable there longer term, but so much uncertainty that it's probably not the best to draw too many conclusions. Precipitation still looks quite high, but it is dominated by a few ensemble members with some really big spikes. Again, probably indicating some are remaining exceptionally unsettled, others are drying up. So yes, some indications of a bit of a change perhaps appearing as we head into the final week, maybe 10 days of the month. But no concrete ideas at this stage exactly what that will be. Very uncertain runs, very different patterns starting to evolve. And yeah, we'll keep a very close eye on that over the coming days. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure to stay safe out in the stormy conditions over the coming days. And yes, hopefully a little bit of a change there as we head into the final week of the month. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.